I'd like to introduce our opening keynote. To his core, Michael Barata is a social change enthusiast. He has established himself as a master trainer for CultureRX, respected college psychology professor, dynamic public speaker, and inspiring writer. His passion for engaging audiences is complemented by his abilities to deliver meaningful content for people to clearly understand and apply in a purposeful way. Michael, welcome. So glad to have you here.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. How are you doing?
Good, good.
Excellent. Awesome. So thank you. So I'll just kind of hop right in, and how I always like to start things off is I want this to be meaningful. I want this to be relevant. So if you have questions, please don't wait. Just ask them. However you were informed to ask them, by raising a hand or putting something in the chat box. I feel the more that this could be a conversation rather than a presentation, the better it's going to be for everyone. I do want to jump back to some of that footage that we heard. And this is what I love about how I tend to go at things is I want to be in the moment. I find that it's interesting that organizations are looking at where people live to determine their salary, and not actually looking at the work that they're doing and the value that they're bringing to the organization. You know, I liken that to, if you take a Picasso and hang that at the MoMA or hang that in a farm in Iowa, it's still the same value. So right off the bat, we can see how the focus is on something like time and location versus actually digging down into understanding what the work is. So as stated, I am a master trainer for the results only work environment. I work for CultureRX, and ROW is the approach. It's a mindset shift that allows people to really dig deeper into understanding the work, the results, the clarity around it, and the accountability. And there was a great article that just came out in the New Yorker, how to achieve sustainable remote work. So if you get a chance to check that out, please do. Please visit our website. It's there. It's on our Facebook pages. It's all over the place. We're really quite happy about it. Talking about the pandemic, which is still obviously happening and still a big concern for people, not just in terms of work, but also in their lives. You know, what's interesting about it, and I had this conversation quite frankly with people, is when organizations are talking about the shift back to normal or going back, or the changes they've made to create flexible arrangements I want people to realize, prior to the pandemic, were conversations being had? Was there conceptualizing happening around how people can work differently in the year 2021, in the year 2020? And chances are those conversations weren't being had. And chances are people were asking for more flexibility and more freedom and more trust to work and live as they feel best suited their lives. So the pandemic, all it really did was force people's hands to make a change. So really it was responsive, really wasn't groundbreaking or progressive. And now organizations are finding themselves having to actually drill down into this, because now when you look at organizations like Apple and the employees and that letter that they just penned to Tim Cook, this is something that is meaningful to people. And it's really not about location. It's really about control over one's time. And that's what I want people to understand. This pandemic created an opportunity for everyone to pause, to take a breath, and really assess their lives, but also as a part of that, how they work. And this is about how people work, all right? So there's two different kinds of conversations. There's the actual work that needs to get done. That needs to be clearly defined, which it's not always clearly defined. And then we are talking about how people go about actually achieving that. And so when we talk about it, what I want to kind of put forth as the perspective for you all to kind of sit with today is, how do we raise the level of control in a world that, you know, we were realizing we have very little of it, right? You know, Buddha would say, just relax, nothing's in your control. But when we talk about control in terms of the context of work, we want to understand, what do people want? What do people really want? And of course, we can go through the litany of beliefs that we have. People want more money, people want more time off, people want flexibility, whatever that might look like. But at the end of the day, people want control over how they make decisions on how they work and live. So some of the core topics I want to put in front of you today are topics such as unlearning and beliefs, all right, clarity, trust, and accountability. And why I think it's relevant to this discussion today is creativity. When we talk about creativity, creativity needs space to breathe, right? It needs an opportunity to be explored and poked and tweaked and transformed. So command and control ways of doing things actually produces conformity, not creativity. So we want to recognize that, and we want to be honest with ourselves. So if you're an employee, you want to be honest with ourselves. If you're a leader or a manager, so this is something that I think you all want to kind of sit with and understand a little bit more with regard to moving forward. So at this time, I'd like to ask you all to just take a moment to write down 2 to 3 beliefs, hard beliefs that you have about the way work should happen. And again, whatever that might be, you heard, you heard about location and salary being relatable. You heard about the importance of FaceTime, which obviously the pandemic has poked a big hole in that. And of course, no one is pushing that it should only be virtual or it should only be physical. At least that's not our perspective. We're trying to look at the moment to dictate the best way to go about things. So if you could just take a moment, write down 2 or 3 beliefs that you have about the way work should happen. And I'm going to ask you to kind of hold on to those. So as I continue through, feel free to ask questions, put something in the chat box. And again, hopefully we'll have a little bit of time once I clam up to give you an opportunity to ask a question or share a comment. So as you're writing that down and thinking about your beliefs, when we talk about change, right, real change with regard to human behavior, there are a ton of variables because everybody is different. All right. So, people like to liken, we hear about your fingerprint is very unique to you. Your psychology is very unique to you. All right. So one of the variables that's going to influence how we behave, all right, how we respond to life, work, are going to be our beliefs. And if you ever have wondered where your beliefs come from, this is the psych instructor coming out in me now, right? But your beliefs come from your experiences. That's where your beliefs come from. So when we think about work, if you've had a particular set of experiences that have drilled down 9 to 5, be in an office, face to face, have a meeting, listen to authority, don't ask questions, don't push back, don't try to negotiate. This is the way work is. Change, when you start to have those experiences, then yes, they start to absolutely build and mold your beliefs. Now, can people start to push back and start to break away? Yes. Hi, my name is Michael Barata. I'm one of those people. All right. I was working for a school district. I wasn't a teacher, but I was an administrator, but I still had 3 months off in the summer. If it snowed like a flake, school was canceled. You know what I mean? So, and we had holidays off. So I had all those fringe benefits of being in the school system, but something still felt off about it to me. I didn't feel like I was in control. I was commuting 75 miles one way. That's 150 miles round trip daily. So yeah, guess where I had my breakfast and my dinner? In my car. And then when I got home, people said, you should work out. Okay. I put on sweatpants, hopped on a couch and ate donuts. Is that a workout? Well, didn't really work out well for me. All right. So in that, I started to recognize something was off. This is how I first discovered the results only work environment. And what jumped out about it to me was not the freedom of the guy on the lake sending emails. It was the trust to do that, the trust to make that decision for yourself. So unlearning is all about breaking down the constructs of your own beliefs and then understanding how that's going to fit in the world of the work, the kind of work that you do. Because a lot of times people say, it must be nice. You're a teacher, you got 3 months off. Hey, listen, if you want that type of career, then become a teacher. However, if your type of work, if you're a bus driver, I don't know if the wheels are this big, but if you're a bus driver and you have to be at particular stops at particular times, that's the work. That's not a belief telling you that. That's the actual essence of the job, saying as a bus driver, we have people waiting at stops that expect the route to flow at this time. So that's the work dictating that. Is there ways for a bus driver and a bus driving teams to actually build how to provide that service? Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So adaptive change, which is what Row is all about, is bringing a new type of learning to understand challenges rather than just applying our knowledge from the past, which can be beneficial. Absolutely. Philosophically speaking, one of my favorite philosophers, Jiddu Krishnamurti, says that knowledge can be a hindrance And what he means by that is if we always fall back on our knowledge and experience, we are not allowing the current opportunity, the current moment to actually be availed to us. So we can learn about how to either discover or apply something differently in that moment. So unlearning and adaptive change can lead to creative solutions. Believe what can get in the way? Believing that there's only one way to do things, and there absolutely is not. There are a multitude ways of doing things, and sometimes there's one way works on a Tuesday, but it's not going to make sense on a Wednesday. And to have that type of trust and organic flow to move about the ship, that you can apply what you need to when you need to, is very liberating. What else gets in the way in terms of a belief? Our past, right? Our past successes, all right? So even though they're worthy of recognition, they tend to be used as a shield, though, in terms of learning new things. Well, listen, our company is super successful. Why would we ever change anything? All right. That then can hold you back from not just changing, but innovating, creating, improving, progressing. All right. Becoming groundbreaking. All right. If we always just fall back on what works, resting on our laurels, all right, we become stagnant. And another belief that might get in the way, and this is not necessarily a belief, but more of a character trait, is humility. All right. Your ability to actually lean into your own humility, all right, and recognize that my way may not be the best way, may not be the right way. Quite honestly, it may not be working, all right? To have that type of humility allows you to be always in that beginner's mindset, that learner's mindset, all right? So the willingness to unlearn leads to curiosity, and it leads to exploration, and it begs the question, what could be? So when we talk about things like flexibility, flex work, remote work, work from home, and now the new term hybrid, this is not new way. This is not a new way of thinking. This is nothing new. Flexibility has been around for almost a century. That's right, a century, all right? Still not working, still not accepted as the golden rail, right? Remote work has been supported by the ever advancing technological infrastructure, but not necessarily by workplace structure. And we're seeing that right now, all right? And hybrid is simply just a rebranding of all those terms. But guess what? They are all permission-based programs, all right, that are arbitrarily doled out and then taken away anytime, all right? Whenever you see stories like what happened with Yahoo back in the day, everybody can do whatever they want. Second thought, everybody come on back. Same thing with Best Buy, where results only work environment was born, all right? And the article in the New Yorker speaks to this, all right? It was implemented, but then new leadership came in and took it away. It wasn't because it was failing, it was because there was a different belief structure that's being put in place, all right? Now, I recognize and applaud organizations that have had the courage to explore flexibility and try remote work, and especially during the pandemic, right? But these are all schedules. When you think about flexibility, it's a schedule, all right? It's a restricted application. It may even be temporary. And think of it this way, flexibility is an oxymoron. Let that one wash over for you for a second, right? You can't have flexibility and a schedule. They don't go together, all right? So if you have a schedule, you don't have flexibility. Well, I work Monday through Thursday, and that's just the best thing ever. I get my Fridays off. That's cool. What happens when you have to go to the dentist on Tuesday for a tooth problem? Oh, now you have to ask permission to switch your days, all right? That's not trust, okay? So if you have to ask permission, it's not flexibility. I also ask organizations who say they have flexibility, when I go into organizations, when I do talks like this, how many people have flexibility? Does everybody have the same opportunity for flexibility? And the answer is always no. Because more often than not, these concepts are built and applied as policies rather than in the moment choices made by employees with regard to the work and the life that they are experiencing at that particular time. So this brings us to trust, right? Trust is not managed. Trust is given, all right? That's how we have got to look at trust. When we shift our mindsets from command and control policy and subjective metrics like time and location, we are then focusing on not managing people, but managing the work. So clarity of the work and trust of the workforce are absolutely paramount, all right? This is paramount in this new mindset shift. So what does it mean to have clarity of the work? Well, you need to understand the scope of the work. You need to understand what success looks like. How's it going to be measured, the metrics, and you need to understand the timeliness of it. Without that information, to talk about accountability is silly. So that's why when I like to tell people, if your work doesn't have a timeline or a deadline, you don't have work. You have a suggestion. All right. This is the big drill down. So a big, huge part of clarity is obviously communication and how you communicate with each other. And it's not, oh, by the way, in the hall, or a short email that says, I need this ASAP. What does ASAP even mean? I know what ASAP means, but does it mean 2 minutes, 2 weeks, 2 years? I mean, that's so subjective. It's unclear. It's ambiguous. So we need to have accountability, but accountability needs to be consistent across the board for everybody. All right. For everyone all the time, not just on Tuesdays, not just the managers, not the favorite employee, not just on Fridays, all the time. So when people are no longer focusing on subjective beliefs, like things and things like time and location, or where somebody is at, or who's on vacation, they have nowhere else to look but the work. So I'm not concerned about where somebody is at. I'm concerned about where somebody is at with the work that they're doing that's going to impact my ability to deliver to the ultimate customer and deliver the ultimate outcome and success. All right. So clarity must precede accountability. And I find it interesting when organizations talk about accountability issues, and we also know they're talking about communication issues. This is because there's a breakdown in the consistency of actually putting forth the effort needed to clearly define results and then to consistently hold people to account for them. So when everyone is focused on efficiency and effectiveness, waste is minimized. Meaningful collaboration is in place. Not let's get together in the break room and hold arms and sing Kumbaya. No, we're going to actually get together. This is going to be purposeful. It's going to be meaningful. The meeting that we're going to have isn't mandatory. It's necessary. It's necessary for us to move this work forward, all right? Because we all have shared outcomes here. Our drive is to actually fulfill the needs of our customers. So the shift is all about recognizing the work that you do. That work is something you do. It is not someplace you go. And I know that sounds catchy, but at the end of the day, when you start to shift your mindset around actually just objectively looking at the work that you have and what you need in order to deliver and make that happen, everything else changes.
Michael, I think this has been a really great starter for us. Our brains are on fire, I'm sure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for kicking us off this way. I know that we did have one question, and I know that we're ready to lead into our next panel. We did have a thought-provoking question that could you speak a little bit more about conformity versus creativity?
Sure. So when I was talking in the context of command and control, when we have either a leadership or an organizational culture that is policy driven and trying to drive people to kind of fit into a box, what that ends up doing is it pigeonholes people to think that there is only one singular way to actually get the work done. And now they're more focused on what time I need to be in and where I need to be versus trying to actually give all their energy to their work and try to actually innovate work and be creative about their approach to work, not just how they work, but the actual work that they're doing.
Yeah, that really certainly sums it up. I think that Greg will join in as well to thank you for these great comments and for kicking us off today.
Thank you.
We're really glad that you were able to join us. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks again, Michael. Yeah, really appreciated the thoughts on meaningful collaboration. I think that's a great term to kind of hold and stuff. So really appreciate that.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.